Last hour here on a Tuesday. Man, I was looking at, because I'm a weather nerd, I was looking at the morning temperatures because I'm going to try to get up and take advantage of the nice cool air that we've had. We've got drier air out there. So the morning, just a little tip, if you got to get up and haul kids to school, you're already up, but it's going to feel nice in the morning. It'll get warm tomorrow, but a little bit of a taste of some relief from this heat and humidity. I've talked a couple of times on the show tonight about Jay Douglas and Calvin from Douglas Heating and Cooling coming over to check out my sitch as they get ready to do their part. And we were hanging out today. And Jay, by design, has to be a weather nerd because that's his business, is keeping up with dew points and humidity. And he floated some statistic, and I wish I could remember it, but it's one of the, we look at temperature a lot, but we've had dew points, very high dew points all summer long, creating all this humidity. That's what makes you sweat. It's been almost record setting. So maybe just the drier air alone is a little bit of relief. So y'all, little good news as we get the hour started this hour. Tapco bringing you the show as well. That's Michael and the whole team down there at Tapco. These are just cutting edge car guys doing service work on vehicles of all types. I mean, they can do high performance stuff. If you want to tune your car to race somebody, they can probably handle that too. That's really, they got started with this high performance stuff, but the day-to-day things are what we all need. And that's the brakes and tires and oil changes and routine maintenance and fluid checks and windshield wipers. And you need a place to go to trust anyway with that stuff. I say just take your car there for the routine stuff, get to know them, get in the system, know where their location is. And then you've got a relationship built for when at some point you have some serious car trouble or something that may not be serious, but might be worrying you, because we always, when those lights come on, it's always just like, oh God, what's that going to cost? And don't die on me right now. We've all had cars like that. Michael can take care of it. They can do all of it. They do fleet management. If you got a fleet, they do a lot of companies around here. And because it's a high tech shop, and I talk about this a lot, newer cars are they're computers. They're computers with wheels almost nowadays. Me and my papa could get outside on a Saturday morning with a toolbox full of wrenches and figure it out. It was fuel, air, and spark. That was pretty much the three things you had to figure out working on a motor. But it's not like that anymore. Times have changed, and the shade tree days are gone, and y'all need a real professional to diagnose and fix some of these ghosts in the machine, so to speak. I mean, it could be a glitch, a software glitch you'll never physically be able to detect on your own. So I've thrown my hands up. I like to get under a hood and get dirty and try to figure it out, but I'm just taking my stuff to Michael. It's downtown Birmingham. They're called Tapco, T-A-P-C-O, on 6th. They do have a shuttle service. They'll take you back to work that day if you want to come down and drop off, and then get you reunited with your vehicle if it's just a quickie day project like that. TAPCO, TapcoBeham.com, if you want to look them up online, TapcoBeham.com. Well, we've kind of been all over the place today. Let me get into some good old raw political analysis. We haven't done much of that today. Been a lot of things on the show to deal with. But Florida is having their primary today, and it's always fascinating to look at Florida. It has slowly become more and more a so-called red state, and there are a number of reasons for that. I mean, I mentioned this earlier in the show back in, remember the 2000 election when we had the hanging chads and the swinging chads, and they had this punch card voting system, and the whole country was hanging on pins and needles, Bush v. Gore, to see who won that race. And it came down to a handful of counties that were pulling some shenanigans, and everybody was watching everybody. And I was kind of in the middle of all that. I was working for a member of Congress who would later go on to run for governor and have his own sort of contested situation, Bob Riley. And I would get assigned to have to go down to Tallahassee every few weeks. We were in this water war with Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. So I was sort of the representative for the congressional portion of that. So we would have these meetings. We'd go to Atlanta, we'd go to Montgomery, we'd go to Tallahassee. So I just happened to be in Tallahassee when the big showdown was happening at their Supreme Court. And it was fisticuffs. I mean, you had police barricades and people on each side yelling at each other in the streets. I will tell you how fake some of that was. it was getting a little warm out there, and so people would just find some shade and hang around. And then when some news anchor was going to go to a live hit with the TV trucks, everybody would come out and start doing the yelling and screaming and holding up their signs for the cameras. And then when the live shot was over, they'd kind of go back to their corners. So some of it was just putting on a show for the public because the country was on edge. That was Florida. Now, since then, Florida's gone through a lot. They're our neighbor to the south. A lot of us spend quite a bit of time visiting that state. And I believe it sort of started with DeSantis winning that governor's race. And it was close. The Democrats were competitive as recently as DeSantis' race. And remember this Gillum guy that, I think he was from Tallahassee. This dude winds up getting caught with like male prostitutes and drugs, and he just got pinched again the other day. Florida almost had a criminal as its governor that the Democrats had put up, and DeSantis was the agriculture secretary, and he eked that out. And so that was a win for the Republicans there. But then the real thing that set it off, I think, that sent Florida in this direction was kind of two things. DeSantis kept his state open during COVID. He let people have their freedom. He managed the hurricanes. This guy's been an incredible governor, and I think gets a lot of the credit for the change that has happened in the state of Florida. Now, what am I talking about? Right now, the turnout for Republicans is more than 2-1 for the Democrats today in their primary. Now, there may be some other things going on with that where the Democrats just aren't that fired up, but there's a lesson here for Republicans in the rest of the country, and I'm going to get to that if y'all will abide my hyper analysis of the state of Florida. So, the combination of DeSantis keeping the state open and free, and then California basically collapsing, and the commies and the illegal invasion of the city of New York has led to a population surge of people who are freedom-minded and wanted to go somewhere to get away from what we're facing right now in our politics, the commies and the Islamo nut jobs, and the quickly changing cultures that we have in some of our blue cities in particular. So people hauled ass and went south. Now, granted, a lot of those Democrats wind up settling in West Palm, and they're still voting Democrat. But the Republican strength has grown to now it is swamping the blue voters in that state. The places where they pull their votes based on a map I just pulled up was in the Capitol, which would be expected anywhere you got a lot of government employees, you got a lot of Democrats. In Orlando, in West Palm, and just north of Miami. Everything else in that state has become solidly red, and their turnout today has been stunning over the Democrats. Now, those numbers may change by the time we get to the poll close. Here's what I also would predict about Florida tonight. They'll count their votes tonight. We'll know who the winners are tonight. I don't think there'll be any of these middle of the night stopping of the counting and people finding, whoops, we had a glitch. Here's some surprise votes we didn't know about. I really don't think you're ever going to see that again. Florida was universally embarrassed in front of the country with their stupid paper system. And they held up the whole country, but they fixed it. Unlike other states that doubled down on their stupidity, I was thinking about the city of Chicago. They got a moron for a mayor recently. This mayor Beetlejuice, you remember her? Then crime spiraling out of control. It's like a war zone death totals. And then they went and elected a bigger idiot to be the mayor of the city. And they do that. LA, which is turning into a third world country, literally like a different country, are maybe going to reelect Karen Bass again. These people just double down out of sheer defiance on the dumb people they elect. But Florida adjusted. They woke up, they fixed their election system, they count their votes on time. They've grown in population. Now, the downside for Florida right now is there's a little bit of a real estate market. It's not a crash yet, but there's been a huge downturn in real estate values, largely in the Tampa area. And to me, that's a result of the properties. With all that growth, you had a spike in demand with all these people moving in. You got a lot of customers. And then at some point that worked its way out of the equation. And now you've got a lot of people with their houses listed and having to drop values, especially in this resort property and high-end stuff and beach stuff. It hasn't really hit the Gulf Coast as badly as it had some of the rest of the states. So they got Economies are living, breathing things. They're going to ebb and flow and go through the pendulum swing. And when you've got an oversupply, the prices are going to go down. When you got an undersupply, they're going to spike. But there's some equilibrium in there where they need to be. So Florida's going through that adjustment right now. But otherwise, everything about their economy is growing. The government's being managed. I don't know how the next governor is going to handle it, but there's what they're trying to decide at the election polls today. But it's the vote totals alone and the turnout today with the Republicans just swamping the Democrat presence in that state. It's a little bit of a stunner. And I mean, it's only been, I guess it has been 25 years or so since that 2000 debacle. I will say this for the Republicans, though. This is a warning shot for the midterms. So don't get cocky. One of the reasons that the Democrats are just demoralized down in Florida, their party has gone awry. They're putting up nut jobs all over the country and killing their brand to mainstream people, independents, people, non-Republicans, libertarians, people that are just more, they decide late. They're not dumb. They're not informed. They just can't pull the trigger on a decision. They're looking at their options, and the Democrats are becoming non-starters, and that has their base really crestfallen down in Florida. You can sense that in the polling. But I think the Republicans are facing the same thing in the midterms. The MAGA base that Trump has built up over the last 10 years is really pissed off right now at the establishment and the electeds. And they need to fight. They're going to have to find a reason other than just fear of the commies and the Democrats to get out and vote. And when Trump's not on the ballot and you've put up mediocre candidates and you're not accomplishing anything legislatively to back up all of the reform efforts that the Trump team has been trying to administer, just through the administrative branch, when they're not getting congressional backup. In other words, they haven't fully funded the border stuff properly. They've not ensconced any of this other stuff, a lot of the spending cuts, a lot of the other, in other words, Trump has basically gutted the education establishment in Washington, with the Department of Education, which has not lived up to its mission. They're going to bring it right back because Congress hasn't validated that. And not to mention the SAVE Act and other common sense stuff. Blame who they want, finger point all they want. It's poor leadership. It's poor messaging to the base. The base has about had enough of that stuff. And I don't think it bodes well for the midterms. As kooky as the Dems have become, we're in an election where they've got their own districts drawn for them. And they can get as kooky as they want, and their voters are still going to vote for them because it's about hating the other guy more than using your head. And that kind of happens sometimes. We're heading into uncharted territory in terms of the basis for these two parties and where the morale is. So I think it's true. What the Democrats are going through right now in Florida today with this depressed turnout, it's going to be the case in some of these other swing districts if the Republicans don't get it together. They just need, and it's not spending. Their solution to it is raise more money and spend more money because they've got a money advantage. Y'all, that's falling on deaf ears. These ads are becoming trite and monotonous. They don't punch through like they used to. You better pass some damn legislation. What we're looking for is some actual action. We're looking for leadership, and we're not seeing it right now. And Congress is just about done. They come back after this August recess, sometime, second week in September, whenever they get back. They're not in there very much longer before we get to the midterms, just a few weeks. They don't have time to do anything solid, and I'm not sure they're going to do it. What a disappointment. Birmingham Broker bringing you the show tonight, bhambroker.com. bhambroker.com. These are the folks that can absolutely get that ride sold for you if you got a car, truck, or SUV that needs to be let loose into the world to be free so you can go buy another one. They'll do it for you. Get you top dollar and do all the work. What more could you ask? They're going to represent you in the deal, broker that car out into the world, not at some fraction of a price or some wholesale price. They're going to sell it retail, get you top dollar, put you in a better position to go buy a new one if it's time. Sometimes it's just time. Birmingham Broker, Craig and Keith and that whole team down there. You'll love working with them. You'll feel like you've made new friends. You'll love the money you get from the deal. And you'll be like me, and you'll never trade a different way again. It's Birmingham Broker, bhambroker.com, downtown on 4th Avenue South, bhambroker.com. Back here in just a minute. It's 525, Leland Live, Southern Skies Dermatology next up here on the show. Y'all, every night I get a chance, and I really look at this as an opportunity more than just, a sponsor paying to advertise. This is my skin cancer doctor. I don't have any issues to go to a dermatologist that I know of over. But what I do want to do in my personal life is stay checked against the things we can screen against. And one of those that's the best word I think is ubiquitous. 1 in 5 people will come down with some form of skin cancer. We have a high rate of it here in the South for a number of reasons. One of which is we like to spend a lot of time outside. We get a lot more warmer months to be out in it, and we do a lot of damage over time. And it can build up into a very dangerous skin cancer situation, and you don't want that in your life. You dang sure don't want any form of melanoma, and you don't want it traveling. And sometimes the difference between them being able to remove it and it traveling can just be a few weeks. Dr. Mario told me that the first time I met him when he took over the practice. He's a Mohs expert, and he found the perfect alignment with this practice that had been there for years, just focused on skin cancer. So I remember I've told this story over and over. As I was leaving, I toured the facility, been there a lot, wanted to get to know him. He just kind of sheepishly sort of looked at his shoes, looked back up at me and said, he said, it always bothers me when some patients come in and it's a little bit late. And I think if you'd just been here a few weeks ago, I think he actually said like 6 weeks ago. That was poignant to me. Then immediately after that, I walked out in the lobby and met a listener named Mike that was in the lobby they had found a melanoma on his ankle. He said the only reason he went is because I keep talking about it every day. So he decided, let me go check. Sure enough, it was melanoma. So they saved him. They can do the same thing for you. This is all they do is find and remove skin cancer every single day. It's, of course, southernskiesdermatology.com. Great locations all around town. I'm hoping we get some news on this 280 location. They were working on getting that opened up this year, but I'm not going to give y'all an address because people will be in the parking lot and they won't be ready. Southern Skies, you'll love this team too. southernskiesdermatology.com, southernskiesdermatology.com. A couple more things about the election as I'm scrolling through the news during the breaks. This story's out there and I'm trying to make some sense out of it, but apparently the U.S. Census has put out some data where they are reconciling citizenship versus the voters' rolls. I don't know what the methodology was. I'm trying to make sense of the story, but they found at least 24,000 people that were non-citizens that were illegitimately, were not legitimately allowed to vote in the 2020 election. The one we all pretty much know by now was stolen. They voted in that election. It's not a giant leap to wonder who they voted for. That's going to be the problem with proving that Biden benefited versus Trump. But what we do know is that's enough people to have thrown the election the other way. And some of them may not have even known they voted. The election was so absurd that year. So some data, again, if you will, on the election from 2020. That's got a little buzz on the internet tonight. Then one more thing, Harmeet Dillon, who's head of the Civil Rights Division and overseeing some of these election abuse cases, again, short of the SAVE Act being passed, which is too late now anyway, they're going to put 1,000 agents, I guess you would say, into polling locations around the country to look for problems this year. Now, that sounds like a lot, but this is a big country. I hope it's very targeted and they're watching some of the usual suspects. But here we go, man. We're headlong in it. It's already almost September. I'm rounding off a little bit. The election will be here before you know it. What are we, 10 weeks out? Are you serious? Okay, bottom of the hour. We'll do this and get that done. Come back and talk to you. If you want to get on the radio show, we'll take some more phone calls. 545-9950 Leland Live. Y'all stay tuned. Man, where'd the show go today? It's already 5:34. It's Thomas time. It's Thomas time. We always check in with Thomas over at Stockton about this time of day. Thomas, give us a good word, my friend.
And my favorite thing is when people contact us and just say, I just don't know where to begin, and I don't know if I can buy a house, but just can you sit in with me and just show me a plan and just tell me what I need to do. And so I love starting from scratch and teaching people how to buy a home and walking them through the process. And so we just recently was able to do that. We had a local teacher that we did, and we love teachers. We're back to school right now. We actually do a lot of teachers because we partner with a lot of schools around, and that's with the Homes for Heroes program that we're with. So we get a lot of closing costs. We give a lot of closing costs back. So we close a lot of teachers. So we had a local teacher that we did over in St. Clair County that over at Moody High School, and we closed them up. And she called us and didn't know where to begin. She had been renting for a while and said, hey, I want to buy a house, but I just don't know if I can qualify to purchase a home. I've always rented. I'm tired of throwing my money away on rent. I just feel like I'm just spinning my wheels and paying for somebody else's house. And so we sat down with her and the one question I always like to ask someone when we're counseling is, how much are you comfortable with paying each month? Because generally when we are counseling someone I can usually qualify someone for a higher mortgage payment than they're comfortable with paying, because I know that's kind of crazy to think, but usually with, we qualify people off their gross income. So, which that's actually before you take taxes out. So if you make $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month, that's, 5 times 12 is $60,000. So we qualify you off your gross income. So I can qualify you way more than what you're comfortable with paying. So first question is what are you comfortable with paying? Because that's going to be way less than what I can qualify you for. And so you don't want to be house poor. So that was the first step. Got her qualified, got her closed up, and she was able to get into a nice little house over there close to the school, and she couldn't be happier. Got her on a down payment assistance program. And that's what I love is just getting someone into a home, something they always dreamed of but didn't know where to begin. And so if you got listeners out there that's interested in having a conversation, that's what it just starts with, that conversation. Just give us a call tonight, 205-859-8859, or savewithstockton.com.
Savewithstockton.com. We appreciate you, Thomas.
Yes, sir, man. Right, bye-bye.
There's Thomas tonight over at Stockton Mortgage doing his thing. Okay, I'm going to double back on a couple of stories because don't underestimate, this story is starting to get more and more traction. The guilty plea that this David Moran did, he was one of Fauci's senior aides and advisors at NHAID, has just pled guilty in Maryland federal court, and he admitted concealing and destroying records. Some of the details of the plea are out. Again, this guy worked for Fauci. He was part of the cover-up. He was part of the whole scam. And Fauci gets his pardon, and President Potato Head didn't give this guy a pardon, so he was fair game. And now he has pled out to multiple things, including conspiracy against the United States of America. And he's admitted in his plea, when you plea and you cop a plea in federal court, which we just saw with this United Healthcare shooter, you've got to own up to what you did. And the judge is going to question you on that. And you've got to be honest in your answers, especially in federal court. And I don't know if this guy's had a hearing yet, or this is an on-paper thing and we're going to get in front of a judge with it, or if there'll be any kind of coverage. But he admitted to destroying federal records to cover up for some of the COVID-19 research that Fauci did not want out into the public. This is a serious scalp. This guy was Fauci's right underneath Fauci, a senior advisor for 16 years, and he's pleading guilty. And for those of you that were called science deniers, vax deniers, cavemen, knuckle draggers, MAGA, whatever pejorative that the American left loves to put on people that they disagree with, that they can't argue with, but they just label you and try to ostracize you, which they did. There was a lot of ostracization during this time period from a number of places. Hell, it's probably your own employer, people in your community, that Karen down the block. They were all in on Fauci. He was Saint Fauci. And now the son of a bitch is facing a contempt charge, and his underlings are going down one at a time. This is a domino thing. The bottom line is this is a win for truth. The truth, the skepticism that you felt during this time was your truth. I love when the psychobabble we go through nowadays is like, I'm just trying to live my truth on my journey. Everybody's a hero in their own Batman film. But truth is truth. Black and white is out there, and we just have to try to discover it as best we can when we go through life. There's no your truth or my truth. There's the truth. But your truth, if we would use that language, was that something didn't feel right and something didn't make sense. And we've gone through some of this stuff already today. But this plea deal is a big deal, and it ought to be a headline story all over the country, because not only did this guy admit his own culpability here, and I'm sure he was as highly paid as the rest of these schmucks that became bureaucrats in the government. He's probably going to give up other evidence about how Fauci personally directed him and who else was involved. Some people call them the COVID cartel. These were some of the highest paid, supposedly scientific, nonpartisan bureaucrats in our government looking out for the public health. And they were running a complete and total scam, and in some cases for money. And we may find out more about that. Now get this, Rochelle Walensky, whatever her name is, that was at CDC, and Dr. Birx and the rest of the forward-facing team. This is a guy who was not on the news conferences every day. Many of you didn't know his name and never seen his face. I had to be reminded of it today when they put the guilty plea out there. But this guy's as sinister as the rest of them. Public trust, man, that's what's at stake. That's what's been at stake since the election that we just talked about, since the COVID fiasco, all of these things where we're getting a lot of theater and not a lot of honesty from people in power, which slides me right back over to this flock camera thing. It's something I wanted to get across that I probably didn't talk about in the original sort of setup of this story. The skepticism is growing with these devices. Look, hear me clearly. I'm trying to strike a balance for the audience of talking about the good that were part of these devices as well. Of course, anytime they can catch a criminal or somebody on the run, that's good. But is that good? Is that crime-solving speed that the government has, is it worth the trade-off of your personal security and your freedom? Here's another way to look at this issue. I had a question on one of the social media platforms, and it was basically a person going, well, what's the big deal? We're under surveillance time. We have traffic cameras. We have, cameras in these private businesses. There's a huge difference in this case, and let me try to describe it. There are other sinister things that are under development that the government, some of the central planners, globalists, this whole cabal of people that just want to control your life. There's some other things that have been introduced, and so far we're holding off on them. And I would give you two things: the digital currency and the social credit score system. Let's talk about those as they relate to flock cameras. So the way it works in China is, if you're a good little citizen, you can have a little bit of more freedom. This concept of 15-minute cities where you're packed into this area, you're not allowed to leave it. For your health care, I told you all the story the other day of a friend of mine who was working over there that had a colleague that was walking home in the rain. He pulled over to give her a ride, and she said she couldn't do it because she had to get her steps in because her watch was reporting into the government. So the government, in order to control healthcare costs, are telling people how much to exercise, what to eat. So it's this control thing. Part of it also is you're rewarded for good behavior and you're punished for bad behavior in their model, in their social. picture your financial credit score and I just talked to Thomas, your ability to get a home loan, and this arbitrary score that often is wrong and abusive, and it can crush people's hopes and dreams or cost people a lot of money if it's wrong. Take that and apply that to your whole life. It's funny, I didn't watch a lot of the TV series Black Mirror, but I did watch one episode that it was kind of off in the future where this whole system's in place and people are scored everywhere you go, whether or not you can get an apartment lease or buy a car. Maybe you've used too much energy that day and they shut your car down. So where does Flock play in on this? It's being sold to us as a crime fighting tool. And I do think it is. I do think that's a huge part of it. But what it really is an intelligence gathering digital sweep of everything, all movement, all transportation, everything in your life is being stored. All these data centers that we're building is storing all this data eventually. We're just data nowadays. As human beings, we're all just becoming data. Some of y'all may feel like that where you work. Everything's data. Everything's quantified. And so in the future of a controlled system, which again has been perfected by the Chinese and it's being picked up by the commies here and the leftists here and the control freaks that want to run your life. Instead of minding their own damn business and leaving you alone, we got a different country now. Everybody wants to manage everything, a managed society. One way to do that is to control movement and restrict movement and to monitor movement itself. It's one thing if they can shut off your money when they decide you're not a good little citizen and you can't use your own digital currency anymore because it's centrally controlled. It's altogether another thing that you can't move about. You've been restricted. You've used too many BTUs this month, or your health rating is not high enough, so you're going to be punished by being restricted into a certain zone for a while. That is what they are. It's not a conspiracy theory. They have meetings about this stuff. There are white papers on this stuff. There's so-called scholarly research on how this would benefit society. To do that, they need tools to do those things. And I honestly believe this type of technology, I'm not accusing the company itself of doing it yet, but it has that potential. It has a control feature potential. And when you look at the theories and the practices and things people are already attempting to do here in this country that's supposed to be the land of the free, to restrict movement and transportation is a wild fantasy of the American left. I remember one of the biggest arguments I ever got in with a bunch of left-wing editorial newspaper people over in Anniston was over trains. I'm sitting here having to get to know you meeting with this editorial board years ago. And one of them asked me my theory about public transportation and trains. And my quick response was, Americans love their cars because they love their freedom and they like to move about and go where they want when they want. And they're just never going to embrace trains like Europe. You'd have thought I insulted one of their mamas. One of them turned red in the face. I think another one started crying. We had this blow up. I decided just to leave the meeting. I thought, you people are nuts. That's when I realized that was back in the 90s. How these people fantasize about packing us all into these orderly units and letting us be transported. You don't have control of what you do. You will be controlled. You'll get on the conveyor belt and do what you're told. They live for this stuff. It's why they were so excited during COVID. When this old man that just pled out guilty and Fauci and the rest of them were shutting the country down and giving terrible advice, it was absolute pornography for control freaks. It was their day had come. People were not going to be allowed to go to church. The restrictions, the censorship, and everything that we came so close to this precipice during that time. We've pulled back from it, but we can go right back. We're still 3 steps away from the edge. We're barely pulled back in the Trump years. Let another one of these weak-willed, lily-livered, flag-waving, surrender cheese monkey bastards in the Republican Party get in charge, and they'll go back to being weak on the issue, and we'll be screwed again. But yeah, flock cameras are part of that storytelling. They use, just for an example, they use very similar technology in China, in their more modern cities, for the exact same thing I just described. Don't think it won't happen here. I present to you Fauci. I present to you all the COVID nonsense. We are one election away from this becoming much worse. So it starts on the ground. These people are smart about it. They plan ahead. We're reacting. We're always reacting to our freedoms being encroached on, and these people are already, they planned out 20 years from now what they're going to do to screw you over. Y'all, we got to pay attention to this stuff and decide if it's healthy or not. Maybe there's a balance. Maybe there's a way we can pull this off. But right now, this is Terminator movie stuff right now. Alabama baths. Let's talk about something more pleasant. That's getting a nice bath. I'm 2 showers a day, man, these days with all this humidity. It's been a little bit better today, but it is just there's nothing like getting refreshed and clean. You just feel like a different person when you step out of there. And the truth is, some people are skipping it because they're nervous to get in and out of the bathtub. And that's sad, man. Maybe it's some of you. You got some mobility loss, the tub slippery. It's just not worth it. There are people that live alone. You just scared about falling in there. I worry about my mom. She lives alone. I worry about her doing that kind of stuff. We've got her outfitted with some stability in her shower. But you can do this for your parents or yourself very easily with Alabama baths. They can come out, rip out that old janky, nasty system that's already ugly and out of date. Come on, look at that thing. And put in something beautiful that's also way safer. And it's about the safety aspect. Slip proof, everything's where it ought to be. You're not making any awkward reaches or moves while you're in there. You can keep yourself stabilized with the handles and the shelving and all that stuff, and then ease on out. Feel good. You can sing some Sinatra while you're in there and get refreshed like we all need and want to do in our lives. It's Alabama Bass. This is a wonderful company. 2 days and they're in and out. Their price is better than the big corporate schmucks that are easing into their business category. Their service is personal. You won't get any pressure from the team. They just don't do that. There are neighbors based down in Pelham, and they're not going to treat you that way. They're just going to give you an honest price and come do it when you're ready. It's alabamabaths.com, alabamabaths.com. That time of day, man. We talked to y'all about Allen and Company. I'm so excited about the holidays coming and for gift giving for all of y'all. Consider Allen and Company. This is just such a laid back place. You're dealing with the whole Thompson family. These people are just so kind and knowledgeable and sweet. Allen is the master jeweler there, so he's going to have hands on work for you to design that piece or redesign that piece. Maybe it's an heirloom piece you'd like to repurpose it, or some old jewels you'd like to repurpose. They can absolutely do that for you. But they've got beautiful things, that one of a kind pieces they've already put in the cases and are ready to go. Maybe it's something very sentimental and specific you want to do for Christmas. They can create that for you too. And of course, ring upgrades, engagement settings. It's nice to work in a low pressure place. I just don't deal with high pressure sales. I'm somewhere, I'll go somewhere else. And in Allen and Company, you're not going to hit with that glitz and formulas and corporate speak and little training manuals for their staff from these new employees. Y'all ever been in a place like that? They're just hitting you with the lingo. It's like, no, bro, I got this. Just go hang out with them and send her over there, Phyllis. They will let her browse to her face falls off, and then she can go home, think about it, and come back. They're so patient. That's part of that business, treating people right. It's Allen and Company in Vestavia, right there on the big tall hill on the main drag on Highway 31. Allen and Company. All right, let me make sure I've covered all the bases. There's a little bit of developing news. This Fauci aide pleading guilty. To me, that's a bombshell story, and it's the third week in a row of that story. What I'm looking forward to is either tonight or tomorrow getting the sound bites from this hearing in New York City where the citizens showed up to set little Kami Mandami on fire, metaphorically, over his taxing schemes. He has pissed off a lot of his own natural constituents in that city, trying to pop people for their second properties in an exorbitant way. So they had a hearing about it, and he was too big a coward to show up, didn't send any of his Star Wars bar scene staff that he's hired. And so what I'm looking forward to are the sound bites. New Yorkers are particularly eloquacious. They're particularly vocal. They're particularly very articulate when they're pissed off, and they can chew you out in such a refined way. I can't wait to hear what they had to say at this meeting. I've seen a few clips pop up, but not a lot of time to sort of review those and shove them into the show. We'll see. Maybe we'll have some of that for you tomorrow. One more time for Distinctive Pools. If you're looking at doing your own home improvement, and that includes a swimming pool for the family or for your neighbors or friends, it's Distinctive Pools. They're just simply, I think, the most experienced pool building company anywhere around. Gary Levesque alone, just personally, he's got 4 decades of building pools and hardscapes. So they've seen a thing or two, and they're up on all the latest developments and changes. And that includes the architectural styles to tie all that into your home to make it look like it fits. If you want to win and do your pool project right, do it with Distinctive Pools. Let them come over and give you an actual price with an actual plan before you decide. That may help your decision. They've even got finance companies to help you out too. It's distinctivepools.com, distinctivepools.com. Stay tuned for Breaking Bread with AJ and the crew. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Goodbye, AJ.